Happy Monday, everyone, and welcome to Testa and Neal Keep It Real. I'm Shea Neal, alongside with me, Parker Testa. Parker, we're doing this from two separate states now. It's a little weird, but we're going to make it work. Maybe not as well as it was last week, but we're still going to do the best we can, and we appreciate you hanging out with us on both YouTube and WWSU 106.9.
Yeah, sure do. It's a little wonky how we're gonna do this, but we wanted to do a daily show that comes with its own difficulties, so we're doing our best to make it work for y'all.
Yeah, and just a few things to keep mind of. We will have weird commercial breaks because we're recording this video footage a little bit in advance. So if you see our logo pop up on the screen in a few minutes of silence, just note that's a commercial break on the radio, and we're just taking it here on the video feed as well. Also, we might interrupt each other a little more than normal. I know we get excited sometimes and interrupt each other anyway, but a
Yeah.
little more than normal. Maybe for the next couple days as we get used to kind of the different, the quicker, I should say the more delay in the feed. So I'm excited today. We have a lot to get into. NFL, there was a really interesting story that came out of Falcons camp. We're going to open with that, but also the NBA playoff matchups are set. And we also, I found an interesting article on MLB.com. One quick fix for every team in the MLB, and we're going to go through that, break that down, and see if it's going to save that team's season or not. We'll break that down later on in the show. So, Parker, this story with Wontarius Bryant, when I showed you this, what were your first thoughts?
I thought it wasn't real, to be honest with you. You told me about it last night, and I'm like, there's no way that's actually happened. How can somebody get a fake phone call from somebody as a fake Atlanta Falcons defensive coordinator? But
Yeah,
it's an interesting story. I read his announcement, if you will, on Twitter. And I guess, for those of you who don't know the story, Wontarius Bryant, who's a defensive back from Austin, PA, got a phone call from a 404 area code, which is Atlanta, from somebody who was posing as Falcons defensive coordinator Dean Pease, inviting him to OTA minicamp.
yeah,
And it turns out that it wasn't real, and Wontarius Bryant shows up to Falcons camp just to not be let in because the invite
right.
wasn't real,
And the
which
worst
is which is very devastating.
Yeah, and the worst part of this is because of what's going on in the world. If this was previous years and he showed up and did all that and went to all that trouble, they might have given him the tryout. But unfortunately, with the pandemic, the Falcons can only host 5 undrafted free agents during minicamp, and they already had their 5 spots allotted, so they had to say no to him. But in previous years, maybe they give the kid a shot if he came all the way down to Georgia for it. But like you said, just absolutely soul crushing. And I mean, I've never once watched an Austin P football game. I've never once seen this guy or heard of this guy until yesterday, but I feel for him. I know how much that getting to the NFL is a dream for a lot of these guys. And especially when you're undrafted, that phone call of giving you that tryout is one of the greatest feelings in the world. You finally think that things are turning up and things are looking up for you. And to have that ripped away, I mean, whoever did this is just a heartless individual. So, but I feel for Wontarius Bryant. I'm going to read what he posted on Twitter last night here in just a minute. And I mean, when you hear that, your heart just breaks for the guy.
Yeah, it's devastating, for sure. And I mean, for whoever did this, I hope they find out who did this. So, they I don't know if there I don't think that's a felony, but just to know who's doing things like this. And hopefully it's something that doesn't happen again. If they do it once, I don't see why they wouldn't want to do it again. So,
And we talk
hopefully
about
that whoever is doing this uh, has some sort of heart to realize that this is a big opportunity for a lot of these guys, and hopefully they stop doing that.
Right. And we talked about this earlier. I mean, the attention that this story's gotten, maybe he gets a tryout now, maybe he gets a look from a couple teams, but just I don't. I mean, I've done some pretty harsh stuff in my lifetime. I'm not gonna lie. I've been mean a handful of times, but I have never once thought about elevating it to a level where you just crap on somebody's dream like that. That is just absolutely brutal. And here I'll read his statement that he posted on social media last night. He handled this just about as well as you could possibly handle this, but This is from Juan Terrius Bryant last night. Quote, I want to say thank you to everyone who has been in my corner while I've been pursuing my lifelong dream of playing in the NFL. Apparently, the opportunity of attending rookie minicamp with the Atlanta Falcons was not a legit opportunity. Someone contacted me from a 404 area code number, that's Atlanta, pretending to be Dean Pease, the defensive coordinator for the Atlanta Falcons. I did not realize it was not a legit opportunity until I traveled to the facility for rookie minicamp check-in on Wednesday, May 12th. It's most definitely one of the most embarrassing things that has ever happened to me and a very humbling experience. I just want to apologize to everyone and the Falcons organization for the mix-up. I honestly thought it was a legit opportunity on my end. I do not know or understand why this has happened, but I do know that everything happens for a reason. Yes, this was heartbreaking for me, but just another stepping stone that I am not afraid to admit or overcome. At the end of the day, this will not make or break me. I will still continue to fight for my dreams because I know it's what I really want. I'm still striving and still in the best shape of my life. When the opportunity presents itself, I will be ready. Again, that's Juan Terrius Bryant, defensive back from Austin P. He could not have handled that any better.
No way, not at all. I mean, just to get your hopes up for an opportunity in the NFL, and then to just have it taken away just like that due to really some stupidity from whoever orchestrated this was. I mean, it's something that just the maturity alone from Montarius Bryant, I think, deserves him a tryout from maybe not the Falcons, but one of these other NFL teams.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And I mean, if the Bengals, I mean, you can never have too much secondary depth and secondary help. If the Bengals bring this guy in for a tryout, I think it's a good thing because the Bengals secondary is not a weakness by any means, but you never can have too much depth, like I said. And this guy clearly is motivated and has that drive to be successful. And he's clearly got some talent as well because he was, an NFL draft prospect. So I think that just relating this to kind of a personal thing that happened, I mean, just to kind of relate to kind of maybe part of what he's feeling. This is nobody's fault in the story I'm about to tell, but I was offered the opportunity a couple months ago to call a game on TV for Flying to the Hoop, which is the second largest high school basketball showcase in the country. And I'm like, yes, absolutely. That sounds fantastic. And then about the next day, about 3 hours before the game started, I got a call from the president of the event, and he said, hey, I am so sorry that we got your hopes up, but the original commentator that was going to do it that said he couldn't do it is now able to do it, and we don't need you anymore. So it's not the same by any means because I'm still kicking. I'm still doing jobs in media, and I still feel like I'm very successful in what I do, but
right.
It definitely hurts when you get your hopes up for something like that and it gets ripped away. And so all the best to Juan Terrius Bryant, and I'll definitely be following his story moving forward because I think he's got a lot of talent, and hopefully, like you said, a team gives him that shot.
Yeah, for sure. So, like you said, all the best to Bryant, and yeah, hopefully that team gives him a team gives him a shot.
So let's move on. This is a story I wanted to hit on last week, and I forgot I had it saved in our text conversation. So I want to bring it up today since we're kind of on the topic of football. Ja'Marr Chase. They were talking about Ja'Marr Chase on NFL Network last week, and this is one of the just worst sports takes I've heard in a long time. It has really less to do with Ja'Marr Chase and more to do with just babying athletes nowadays. But Ja'Marr Chase was the example here. This is from Diana Rossini of ESPN. Zach Taylor said last week that Ja'Marr Chase can be one of the great receivers over the next 10 to 15 years. And before I even read what Diana Rossini said, we both agree with that, right? I mean, Ja'Marr Chase is off the charts talented. I don't think that's a hot take to say he could be one of the best receivers in the league.
No, he's definite. I mean, he was the first wide receiver taken in the draft, and he obviously has tremendous talent playing at LSU. And there were lots of receivers that went early in this year's draft. I think more than usual from previous drafts. But yeah, he definitely has all the talent in the world, and he really has a chance to be the best wide receiver prospect to come out of this draft.
Yeah, and so here's what Diana Rossini said. This is from May the 6th. So like I said, we're hitting on this late. But she said, I never understand why any team would put pressure on any player who hasn't played in one NFL game. It makes no sense to me. Nobody needs the extra pressure. Now, there's two things that bug me about this. One, What the hell do you want Zach Taylor to say? I don't believe in my guy. I think he's going to be an average NFL receiver. Like, he's the head coach. He drafted the guy. He's supposed to think he's going to be a stud. If he didn't, he wouldn't have taken him 5th overall. So that's my first problem. What do you want Zach Taylor to say? He said if Zach Taylor says he's going to be a stud, he gets ripped for it. If Zach Taylor says he's not going to be that great right off the bat, he gets ripped for it. So Zach Taylor just can't win here. And then the other thing that bugs me is Ja'Marr Chase was a top 5 draft pick. And like you said, the number 1 receiver taken in this year's draft. Excuse me for having higher expectations for the guy than a guy we got in the 4th round that's going to be a situational defensive lineman. Like, this guy is a top 5 pick. He has higher expectations. That's just the reality of football.
Yeah, it's like you said, it's a lose-lose for Zach Taylor. I mean, if he says he's going to be great, the fans and the media are like, "Oh, you don't know that," but if he says he doesn't, Ja'Marr Chase is pissed off. Yeah. So it's a lose-lose. I mean, and everyone knows that all what these coaches are saying is completely scripted. They have a guy who gives them a paper, have in categories about what the topic's going to be, and the same basic damn answer for every question. I mean, I compare it all the time to Bill Belichick and the War on to Cincinnati. He doesn't answer any questions. He uses the same basic answer and moves on with his day. So it's all these press conferences are scripted.
Yep.
You're not getting a straight answer with anything unless it's the owner.
No. And even the owners lie. I mean, it's not
right.
Even the owners aren't a guarantee. Just ask Mike Brown, who was asleep during the draft a couple years ago. But I think that back when 2 or 3 years ago, I was on on ESPN radio. I still am, but it was Justin Kinner and his old co-host Mark Schlemmer, who retired. But Mark Schlemmer and I mean, Mark Schlemmer, he was the baseball coach at UD in the 90s. And he always joked that there was a book of coach speak, universal coach speak, with all the lines and all the those one-liners that coaches use in any sport, where it's like, well, I think our team's really solid. I think we're doing a lot of good things, but I think we got room to improve. So it's the book of coach speak, and every coach knows about it. So I think you're absolutely right there, where, I mean, Zach Taylor had that answer thought out before they even asked him the question.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, there's so many other, I mean, the questions that the media asks is all over the spectrum. And I know we're in the media business, and I really shouldn't say this, but I'm going to anyway for the good of the general public.
Get them.
Every single thing that you hear on the news or on SportsCenter or whatever you watch has been altered or changed or scripted to make that company or what they're watching look better.
And to piggyback off of that, everything you hear on sports media, including our show, every topic we bring up, every debate we have is hyperbolic. I mean, we bring it to we talk about it like it's a bigger deal than it actually is, because that's the beauty of sports media. You do what you got to do. I mean, yes. Am I passionate about this Ja'Marr Chase take? Yes. Am I passionate about this Wontarius Bryant story? Yes. Do I care as much as it maybe sounds like I do on the radio sometimes? No, probably not. But that's just the beauty of modern sports media. So that's a secret from us to you listening at home. Sometimes I wouldn't say we're lying, but sometimes we stretch the truth where we don't care as much as we maybe think we do.
We exaggerate.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it's I mean, sure, we're passionate about what we do and we love what we do, but ratings matter to an extent. And that's very true wherever you go.
No doubt about it.
On TV, on radio, even on some high schooler doing a YouTube feed. I mean, ratings matter to an extent.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, and the content matters, of course. If the content didn't matter, you shouldn't be on the radio.
Right. Absolutely.
But yeah, I mean, just the I think what was trying to be said there was whoever asked that question to Zach Taylor was trying to get something they could just kind of alter or change a little bit and put it out on the news or on Twitter and run with it for a week or 2 weeks. So
Yep.
that's really a unfortunate series of events for both the Bengals, Jamar Chase, and Zach Taylor. But
Yeah.
I think Zach Taylor handled it the best way he could.
Yeah, I agree. And I don't think that, I mean, like I said, I don't think the Bengals or Zach Taylor did anything wrong or said anything that they needed to, or that was taken out of context. I think it's just modern sports journalism, modern sports media has gotten used to babying athletes, have gotten used to, I don't want to say it's soft, but quote unquote, but it is in a way. I mean,
Yeah.
he's the 5th overall pick in the draft. He knows he has higher expectations than a guy the Bengals took in round 3. And the Bengals know he has higher expectations than a guy they took in round 3. So I don't get why Diana Rossini and ESPN is, pretending like Jamar Chase is, he has the exact same chances of being good as some guy that they signed as an undrafted free agent. I guess that's true, but if Jamar Chase ends up being a bust, it sets the Bengals back 3 years. If an undrafted free agent ends up not working out, you just cut him in minicamp. It's not that big of a deal. Jamar Chase has higher expectations, and that's just the truth. It's the same with the Colts. That random, backup third string quarterback you take in the 7th round doesn't have the same expectations that a guy like Kwity Paye does.
No, not at all. I mean, I know they took they took an O lineman in the 7th round. It took him. It can't really kind of piss me off. It took him that long to do it, but they made up for it signing Eric Fisher. But we'll talk about the Colts later. I'm sure I'll go off on some tangent that doesn't matter.
Absolutely.
But I mean, everyone knows that the higher you're drafted, the more talent there is. Trevor Lawrence does not have the same talent as Joe Schmo, the wide receiver from Cornell. So it's really it's common sense.
Yeah. No doubt about it. We are semi-live on YouTube today. If you're watching us on YouTube and you don't know what that means, we're recording it a few hours in advance, but we are releasing the video at 1 p.m. So you can still follow along like it's live. Again, we're kind of adjusting. Parker now back in Noblesville, Indiana. I am still in the WWSU studio for now. I'm going to have to move into our production studio in about 45 minutes because I got to give way for Patrick Schmalstick in the Right Morning Show.
Yeah. So
but we're
working with what we got.
Yeah, we appreciate you hanging out with us. And again, it's going to be a little bit weird for the first couple of days, but we do appreciate your patience and we appreciate you hanging out with us all summer long. So we're going to step away for just a few minutes. If you're watching the video, it's just going to be our logo on the screen and a couple minutes of us being silent. But just know that that's us going to commercial break on the radio. So we're going to step away for a few minutes. When we come back, I'll let you decide, Parker. You can be the guy who decides. Do you want to talk baseball or do you want to talk NBA playoffs next?
Let's give the people what they want. Let's go back and forth about baseball for a while.
All right. When we come back, there you have it. We're going to talk the MLB. And of course, there's an article that I mentioned at the beginning of the show. One thing that all 30 teams can do to fix the start of the season. I'm interested to read that because there's some teams like the Red Sox and the Padres, and, maybe they don't need a ton of fixing. And there's some teams like the Tigers and the Rockies and good Lord, the Reds that could use all the help they can get. So I'm excited to see that. We'll break it down. We'll talk about if this move can turn that team into a contender. We'll be right back after this on Keep It Real. Make sure you keep it locked. Back here on Keep It Real with Testa and Neal. Appreciate you hanging out with us on your Monday afternoon. Again, it's kind of weird. We're doing this from two different states, so be patient with us, but we do appreciate you hanging out with us. I just saw a mind-blowing stat on Twitter during the break. Tony Snell becomes the first player in NBA history to have a 50-50-100 season in the NBA. He shot 50% from the field, 56% from three, and 100% at the free throw line. He didn't miss a free throw all season long. That is insane.
Can you imagine how good Wright State would be if they never missed a free throw? Unbelievable.
Wright State wouldn't lose if they never missed a free throw. That's the only reason why they lose games.
Yeah, but I mean it's fantastic. I mean the best free throw shooters in the world shoot 92%, 95%. They miss one occasionally, but Tony Snell, no. He never misses. Clutch all the time.
Yeah.
Mamba mentality right there for Tony
There
Snell.
you go. Absolutely. The Kobe Bryant of free throws, Tony Snell. I think that's hilarious. That I love looking at the stat sheet every year for Wright State when we're with the media, and it's like they're top 30 in the country in every stat, and then they're top 30 in the country in every stat, and then you get to free throw percentage, and they're like 264, and you're like, what? I didn't even know there were 264 teams to be worse than.
Right. Yeah. And there's, I mean, other stats are down in like the 340s, and it's like, what?
Right?
There's that many teams? Are you
Are you
kidding me?
kidding me?
Yeah.
No, yeah, it's ridiculous. All right, so I'm gonna try and ride this out for the rest of hour number one. This topic right here. One quick fix for each MLB team, and then in hour number two we can talk NBA playoffs. We can talk. And we also have a really fun topic coming up in hour number two: the best sports cities, and we're actually going to break it down by sport because I know it's unfair to call Portland to dock Portland because they don't have a football team or a baseball team. I still think Portland's a good basketball city. So I'm excited to get into that because I think there's a lot of really fun ones that pop off in my head. But first one, let's start in the AL East. Blue Jays. This one's pretty self-explanatory. Get George Springer healthy. And for each of these teams, we decide whether this move would make them a contender or a pretender. So the Blue Jays get George Springer healthy. The Blue Jays have hung on despite not having their top offseason addition to help out. That's not a lineup that's not quite as deep as everyone thought, but eventually they're going to need Springer. How much longer can they go without him? I mean, this one's pretty easy. I think a healthy Springer makes the Jays a contender.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, George Springer has been hurt all year long. Trust me, I know. He's on my fantasy team. I've been waiting for him, to come back.
Getting beat up.
I mean, like I said this on one of the shows last week. My fantasy team is the injured list capital of the world right now. But yeah, I mean, George Springer, we all know how talented he is. He was great in Houston. And he brings his talents to Toronto this year. I'm sure all Blue Jays fans are pushing for Springer to come back. And I mean, he's obviously a talented player and a great defensive player in the outfield. So, yeah, I completely agree with you. I think if the Blue Jays get Springer back, it makes him a contender.
Yeah, I mean, I think that one's going to be hopefully one of the easier ones we get because the Jays are a pretty good team without Springer, and I think when you add Springer, they're right in the thick. Maybe not winning the division, but I think they're right there for second place and competing for a wild card spot for sure.
Baltimore Orioles call up Adley Rutschman.
Yeah, Rutschman, one of the top prospects in baseball. I didn't mean to cut you off again. That's one of the things you're going to have to get used to with us having, kind of a delayed audio feed. The Mariners just called up Kelnick. Rutschman, one of the top prospects in baseball. So the Rutschman is, I mean, there's been so much hype around him from the day he was the number one overall pick. It's about time for him to make his Orioles debut. But of course, to be directly called up to the bigs this year because of the COVID protocols, you have to come from AAA. So if they want to move Rutschman up from AA, they're going to have to get him to AAA first. So they should do that soon. I don't think this makes the Orioles a contender. but I do think this makes them a lot more fun to watch. Even though I don't think this makes the Orioles competitive yet, I think it's a good start to being competitive down the road.
Yeah, no doubt about it. The Orioles have struggled in recent years. We all know that. I mean, Rutschman is obviously one of the best prospects that they have, and one of the best prospects in baseball. So he's this article says he's in Double A right now, and they should move him all the way from Double A, just completely skipping Triple A and moving him up to the pros.
I'm not 100% certain on that, but I think if they do that, he has to go through self quarantine, because AAA is the only level where you can just call guys straight up. I think if they come from AA or high A or whatever, they have to quarantine and pass through protocol and stuff like that before they can join the team. I think that's how it works.
Okay.
Because I think AAA is just at the alternate site, so they do daily testing.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, I'm not a big fan of guys coming all the way up from Double A or Single A just straight to the pros. I think that Triple A level and playing at that Triple A level is the closest thing to professional baseball. That's not the majors that you're going to get. So I think that talent portion of Triple A baseball is really crucial in the development of not only just defensive baseball is defensive baseball, doesn't change a whole lot, other than things like the shift, which is stupid, personal opinion. Other than the shift and I know moving outfielders further back or further in, defensive baseball doesn't really change. But when it comes to hitting and pitching, the talent is definitely really just ramped up as you make that move from Double A to Triple A, and that move from Triple A to pro baseball.
Yeah.
And so I think that talent portion of Triple A is crucial in development for all players that go through the minors. So if the Orioles decide to call up Rutschman directly from Double A, what the hell do I know? I'm just a guy sitting here in Noblesville, Indiana, talking about it. But it's their decision. But if it adds to their talent, by all means, go for it.
All right, let's get to the Rays. Call up Wander Franco. Now, Wander Franco is the number one prospect in all of baseball, not just in the Rays system. He's the number one guy. Wander Franco has a 959 OPS right now at AAA, and is considered the game's best prospect. The Rays starting shortstop right now, Willy Adames, has a 546 OPS. I think it's kind of unfair to put that expectation on Wander Franco that he's going to make this team a contender. I do think he makes them better, and I do think they should call him up because they should trade Willy Adames to the Reds.
You've been pushing players like Trevor Story,
well,
Willy
I don't
Adames to the Reds
I think
for
Adames
months.
is realistic.
Yeah, so pushing those players to the Reds for months, it seems like. But yeah, Wander Franco, obviously he's everyone widely regarded as the best prospect in baseball right now. He has a 546 OPS, and it says a 959 AAA OPS and a career 546 OPS for Wander Franco. So the Rays, they were a World Series team last year. Surprised everybody in that. And so I think just another. All of this is really talent based. If you're lacking at one position, and a guy who can come in and play that position, these durability, utility, versatile guys are very valuable in baseball right now. So guys like Kike Hernandez in Boston, guys like Suarez with the Reds, play multiple positions. They're very valuable right now. So I'm not sure what positions Wander Franco can play outside of his main position, but if he can play other positions, and you can kind of these plug and play guys, there's no more of a the plug and play mentality is not really prevalent in any other sport other than baseball, because baseball, as much as it is a team sport, it's very also an individual based sport. Whereas in football, there's 11 guys all working together to either score or stop from scoring. Basketball, 5-on-5, very team oriented. But baseball, it's team oriented in the fact that defensive defensive baseball. You have to work with your cutoff man, with I'm going to say it again, the shift, but yeah, baseball is very individual based.
Yeah.
As much as it is a team sport, and the team matters very much. It's an individual based sport at heart. So um, if this adds to the race talent, I mean, by all means, go for it.
I agree. I think that, I mean, Franco's a stud. Franco's going to be a stud. It's just, I don't know if it's, like I said, I don't know if it's fair to put that expectation on him that as soon as you call, a 20-year-old kid up, that he's going to make you a World Series contender. And I don't know if that's true or not. But I do think he's, a future MVP candidate and multiple time All Star. So I think that the Rays are in very good shape with the future of their team. For the Red Sox, figure out first base. The Bobby Dahlbeck story was a little cuter when the Red Sox weren't thought to be a contender, and you could just watch the kid try to figure it out. But now the Red Sox need to hold on to first place, and at the very least, they need a league average first baseman to do it. I think they give Dahlbeck another month. If it still isn't working, I think they attack first base at the deadline. But I agree. I think the Red Sox need more production out of first base if they want to hang on to the East or just make the playoffs in general. So I think this does make the contender if they figure out first base.
Yeah, I think so too. They've kind of done like I mean, Dahlbeck's been their main guy, but they've also plugged Michael Chavis there at first base. I mean, this is a very good Red Sox team. It surprised a lot of people for a team that wasn't very good last year. And they bring Cora back this year. I mean, they have talented pitchers with Eovaldi, with Eduardo Rodriguez. JD Martinez is still there. Alex Verdugo. So this team has some talent, as well as Devers. So first base is really the one spot that they really don't have a set in stone guy to play every day. And if you're going to be a playoff team, you need to have that set in the stone guy to play every day at every single position, every 1 through 9. You need that guy to play every single position every day, with the occasional take a day off, which is what most teams do. And the Red Sox really haven't figured that out at first base. So um, if Dahlbeck can kind of turn it on a little bit and prove that he's a talent, he has talent and is able to play the first base position with consistency, um, I see no reason why the Red Sox. I mean, if it's another if it ain't broke, don't fix it thing.
Yep.
If Dahlbeck can figure out first base and he can prove that he's consistently uh, decent at first base, I think they'll stick with him. But like you said, if he struggles and kind of takes a little bit of a nosedive, they'll attack first base at the deadline.
Let's get to the last team of the AL East, the New York Yankees, widely considered the favorite in this division. Their one thing to fix is iron out the rotation. The Yankees, I mean, this has been a problem with the Yankees for years. Their starting rotation just doesn't have the depth to get over the hump in the playoffs. Garrett Cole has been dominant. Jordan Montgomery, Corey Kluber, and Domingo Germán have been perfectly respectable pitchers, but they're not going to get a true run going until they can count on solid starts every single game, which is another sign that Jameson Taillon and his 5.4 ERA needs to get it going. I completely agree with this one. I think the Yankees are already a World Series contender, and if that starting rotation gives them a chance to win every single day, they're going to be really hard to knock out in a series in the playoffs.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, I think the mentality with Brian Cashman and Aaron Boone, and even Joe Girardi when he was there, has been just outscore everybody, and that's how the Yankees win. They just outscore everybody. With Stanton, you hit a bunch of home runs. With Judge, you hit a bunch of home runs. I mean, and even the guys in the middle of the at the top in the middle of the order who just get on base, and then when guys like Stanton, when guys like Judge come up, you hit a 3-run bomb, and obviously all of a sudden you're up 4 or 5 runs. And that's been the mentality for the Yankees since God knows how long. It's probably since before I was born. They were winning World Series even then.
Well,
So
probably it's like 1907 or whatever.
exactly. So yeah, the I mean the Yankees are interesting. Their pitching really hasn't been very consistent for a while now, other than outside Garrett Cole and even Tanaka when he was still there. So, and they haven't really had a consistent bullpen or closer other
No.
than Chapman and Mo Rivera in a long time. So, the offense is really the high powered offense is really the name of the game for the Yankees. But if they figure out their starting rotation, this team is going to go deep into the playoffs, if not the World Series.
Agreed. American League Central, the Cleveland baseball team, if you will. I don't
love
want
this one.
I don't want to ruffle any feathers on the show, but just start grabbing any bat that's close.
I love this one. This is
yeah.
this is a very subtle, but I mean, just knife to the heart for Cleveland Indians fans. There's no other way to say it.
No.
Their offense is terrible.
It sucks. They have Bieber, Savali, Plesac, McKenzie, and Logan Allen, and a very solid Cal Quantrill, and James Karinchak, and Emmanuel Clase. And, I mean, their team's just loaded with pitchers, and they're still hovering around 500 because their offense couldn't catch a cold.
It's like the Mets. The Jacob deGrom is fantastic, but he's like 2-3 because he gets no run support when he starts.
With like a .69 ERA.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think the Indians, obviously, if they get any sort of offense, they become a contender in the AL Central. I think their pitching already makes them a dangerous team. But if they get a couple bats, they already got Eddie Rosario. They already they have Bobby Bradley chilling in AAA that has a lot of potential. They have Daniel Johnson as well in AAA that has a lot of potential in the outfield. I think if they can find a couple bats and then maybe go get somebody at the deadline, it's a team that definitely can be competing throughout the course of the season. So I think that one's pretty easy. The Royals get Jorge Soler going. And Jorge Soler has been one of the most interesting stories of the season because he's hitting the ball harder than he did the year he hit 48 home runs. But he's just getting unlucky. So, I mean, this one's pretty easy. I don't think the Royals are a contender this year. Their pitching's been terrible. But if they want to take that next step with guys like Adalberto Mondesi, with guys like Whit Merrifield, with guys like Brady Singer, some of their top prospects, Bobby Witt will probably be coming up by the end of the year. It'd be nice to get Jorge Soler back to the world beater that he was in 2019.
No doubt about it. I mean, the Royals obviously have talent with Whit Merrifield, with Salvi Perez there still, and they have their pitchers. Danny Duffy is one of their great pitchers. So they have the talent with their Mike Matheny is a manager that I love strictly because he manages with his gut and he's not buying into all this analytical baseball crap. The Royals have a lot of talent with their team. And and Soler was that, before this year, but he just can't, he just seems to, whenever he hits the ball, he seems to hit it like right to the outfielder. I mean, he's hitting it hard, but he hits it like right to the outfielder, hits it right to second base. He hits a hard grounder to shortstop. And it's, and we all know that a lot of baseball involves luck.
Yeah.
As much as you have to be really good to hit a 96-mile-an-hour fastball, it involves an incredible amount of luck for that ball to get past the infield. So, Soler's, one of the, a great talent that we have in the game of baseball right now, but he just seems to struggle at the plate right now, and if he can pick it up, I think the Royals pick it up as well.
Tigers, just let the kids keep figuring it out. This is one of the worst teams in the league. It's frustrating to see them be one of the worst teams in the league, but the young pitchers are getting experience. They have Spencer Torkelson, one of the top hitting prospects in the league. Casey Mize, of course, Tarek Skubal. They have another one down in AAA. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but they have like 3 pitchers that are in the top 30 prospects. This one's a lot like the Orioles. It's not going to make them a contender, but it's what they need to do. I mean, it's a step in the right direction. The Tigers have a lot of talent in terms of prospects and talent at the minor league level, and they also have some pieces that fit right now with Heimer Candelario, with guys like Willie Castro has been really solid in his time with the Detroit Tigers, about a 300 hitter. So they have a couple pieces in place. Matt Boyd might be traded at the deadline, but he's been a solid pitcher for him. The Tigers just need to keep going through the rebuild process like this says. So I think the Tigers aren't going to be competing for a couple more years, but they're doing what they need to do.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, the Tigers, there's no, I'm not going to beat around the bush here. They've been awful for, since the only
since like 2017.
The only spot that they still have that has been consistent forever is Miguel Cabrera. And they've traded away everybody. They traded away Justin Upton. They traded away Verlander. They traded away JD Martinez.
Scherzer.
E-
Well, Scherzer left in free
Castellanos they
agency, but
traded away. Everyone gives AJ Hinch a lot of crap for what he did in Houston, myself included. But he's working with what he has, and what does he have? He doesn't have a whole lot.
he's
So
Candelario and a bunch of prospects.
exactly. So like this says, it's a very young team. They'll figure it out. They're not going to be good for a while, but they'll figure it out eventually, and the Tigers will be right back in contention here in the next few years.
I think this one's my favorite one. The Twins stare at a picture of Byron Buxton until he returns. I mean, nothing has gone right for the Twins this year. And anytime they do win a game or anytime they do look like a competent baseball team with a pulse, it's because of Byron Buxton. Now Buxton is out, hurt, unfortunate. This guy can't catch a break for out the majority of his career with injuries. But the Twins without Buxton just look like a team that's about to fall off a cliff. So I love this one, but it's honestly true. I mean, the only good part about the Twins this year has been Byron Buxton.
There's no doubt about it. I mean, Byron Buxton is fantastic. Another guy on my fantasy team who I'm not going to take out of my starting lineup until he returns. I'm literally going to stare at the picture of Byron Buxton on my phone on my fantasy team until he returns. He's not going on the injured list. He's not going on the bench. He's staying right in the outfield spot until he returns on my fantasy team. I'm holding out hope that he will be back soon, but I mean, like you said, it's very true. Byron Buxton is really one of the only bright spots that this Twins team has right now. I love Rocco Baldetti, their manager. He is one of the best names in all of baseball. Rocco Baldetti just sounds like a baseball manager. But the Twins they were very good last year. But I mean, like you said, not a whole lot has gone right this year. So for the Twins up there in Minnesota. So I'm sure they're another one of these teams that as we get further into June and July, and as we get closer towards the home stretch of the season, I see no reason why they shouldn't catch fire. Maeda hasn't been the pitcher he has been in previous years for them,
Yeah.
but they have the talent. The talent is definitely there, and I think they'll catch fire here as we go down the stretch of the season.
Last team here in the Central, the White Sox. We're going to do the rest of the American League and then step away for the top of the hour break, and then we'll resume with the National League to kick off hour number 2. But Tony La Russa, let him be. Is the White Sox quick fix. For all of the talk of supposed strategic missteps from Tony La Russa, he has the White Sox right where he usually has his teams in first place. The White Sox have lost 2 of their best players, Luis Robert and Eloy Jimenez, to injuries. And not only are they still leading the AL Central, they have the best record in baseball and the largest run differential. Maybe Tony La Russa knows what he's doing. I don't know how much you can give La Russa credit. I don't think he's made the White Sox a worse team, but I think they're just really, really talented. But he has managed them well, and I will give him that. I think he's doing what he needs to do to win games. He's not getting in the way of the talent that's on that roster, and I think the White Sox are contenders now, even without Robert and Jimenez. They're going to get Robert back. Jimenez, maybe not. Maybe he'll be back for the playoffs. I don't know. But I think the White Sox are a contender now, and unless something drastic happens, I think the White Sox will be a contender in October as well.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. A lot of people gave the Red Sox or the White Sox, I'm sorry, a lot of crap for hiring Tony La Russa. 76 years old, myself included. I joked with some of my friends that when his bench coach asks if he wants to pinch hit for Jose Abreu, he's going to say, "Who's Jose Abreu?" But that was just
And
just
then
a
the Reds beat him in extra innings like 2 weeks ago, and he forgot that he could pinch run for who was it? Yasmani Grandal that was on second base, and he forgot he could pinch run for one of the slowest dudes in the league, and then they lost, and it's like, dude. But yeah, I mean they're in first. You can't argue it.
exactly. And but who might argue? Tony La Russa is a baseball legend. He's
All
won World
there.
Series
Mm-hmm.
with the Cardinals. He was in Oakland with the A's. So he's a Hall of Fame baseball manager, no doubt about it. And who am I to argue with a Hall of Fame manager, even though he is one of the oldest manager in baseball? So the White Sox have the talent's definitely there. They were great last year, and they're gonna Tony La Russa is gonna figure it out. I mean, this paragraph says maybe he knows what he's doing. That's not a maybe. He knows what he's doing. He's gonna figure it out. I mean, you just got to give it time.
I agree. Let's move to the West. This is the first one that I really don't like. The Angels, don't panic. For all the drama of the Albert Pujols breakup, we'll also get into Albert Pujols in hour number two. He signed with a team that we were not really expecting him to sign with, but it did not. It did make a lot of sense for this team, particularly in its ability to help out its defense. There's still stability and talent here. I agree with that. Jose Quintana, in particular, should benefit from better defense. There's a long way to go. The biggest, toughest move has already been made. I agree to some degree. I think there's a lot of season left. There's a lot of time for the Angels to turn it around. But we talked about it on Friday. You have Trout and Ohtani, who are both top 5 in the MVP race right now. Ohtani hitting the home run in the 9th inning to give them the win over the Red Sox. I mean, another just absolutely unbelievable moment from Shohei Ohtani. But I think it is time to panic a little bit. You've had Trout for a decade and you've been able to do nothing with him. So this roster's clearly not getting it done. So go out there and get what you need to get Mike Trout to the playoffs, because Mike Trout's the kind of guy that if you can get him to the playoffs, he might be able to win you a ring.
No doubt about it. I mean, everyone feels terribly for Mike Trout, myself included. He's the best player in the world, and he just hasn't had great teams. And he's made the playoffs like maybe twice since he's been with the Angels.
3 games in the playoffs.
Yeah. So, and it's really it's just sad to see that, because I mean Mike Trout's the best player in the world, and I mean certainly Shohei Ohtani is also in that conversation right now. You should not have 2 MVP caliber players on your team and be in the basement of your division. That's not supposed to happen. And the Angels have, Hall of Fame manager in Joe Madden. They have Hall of Fame talent. I mean, their coaching staff is made up of former managers. I mean, who wouldn't want to coach under Joe Madden? I mean, Joe Madden gave me a call to be his bat boy. I'd be on a plane in a heartbeat. But
right.
Even then, the talent. The ends do not justify the means with the Angels right now.
Totally agree.
You just have all the talent in the world, and you have won like 15 games out of 40 that we've played. So, and I disagree with this as well. Don't panic. It's time to panic right now. Make some moves at the deadline. Beef up your pitching staff.
Well, I mean, in my opinion, don't even wait until the deadline. Go get Matthew Boyd today. Like, you got to start turning it around now. You're already in last. Don't wait until July when you can't claw your way out of the basement. If you make moves now, you've got 5 months to turn it around. If you make moves in July, you've only got 2.
Right, exactly. So the Angels need to address their. I mean, the thing that's holding this team back is their, other than Shohei Ohtani and the occasional great start from Dylan Bundy, their entire pitching staff is not good.
Their bullpen sucks. I think it said their bullpen's the 4th worst in the league, and their rotation's the worst in the league, and that's with Ohtani having a 2.1 ERA. So,
yeah, that's with Ohtani having a 2 ERA, hitting the skin off the ball at the plate. So yeah, the Angels, I'm sure they'll come back to earth. They'll actually, I don't want to say come back to earth. They'll come up from the ground eventually, but that's not going to happen if they don't make moves to address their pitching situation.
Yep. 4 more, and then we're going to step away for a little bit, get to the second hour where we'll do the National League. We'll talk NBA playoffs, and we'll also talk about Albert Pujols as well. The A's fix shortstop. No one expected Elvis Andrus to be an all-star again, but goodness, he's one of the worst hitters in the league right now. Is this the favorite for Trevor Story?
This is an interesting one.
Trevor Story
I love
makes him a huge contender.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I love the A's. They're one of my favorite teams in baseball. I love Bob Melvin. And I know this breaks your heart if Trevor Story goes to the A's, because I know you've been pushing
better
Story.
than him going to the Brewers.
Yeah.
Honestly.
So, I mean, if they trade for Trevor Story, everyone knows. We talked a little bit about this earlier. Sports radio is entirely based on hypotheticals. Yep. There's no doubt about it. But I mean, you've seen, everyone's seen ESPN. They sit there on First Take and talk about what are the Cowboys, Where's this guy going to go? He's going to come here, and this
Will
team is going
Dak
to win
sign an
the Super
extension
Bowl.
in 2026?
Exactly. So, yeah, but the I mean, Andres has struggled all season long. I mean, he's been one of the most consistent players at shortstop in recent years. But the A's are a good team, and I know they have a lot of drama going on with the city of Oakland and their stadium situation. But they're still one of the best teams in the West,
Yep.
and they're atop the West right now. So
Yeah.
and so they have the talent there. They just Andres has been one of the few low spots, if you will, on Bob Melvin's roster, and it's at a position that's one of the most important, if not the most important, in all
Right.
9 positions.
Yeah, absolutely. The Astros. Let's get to the Astros. I totally agree with this one. I know you hate the Astros, but keep that low profile. There were some boos in New York City, but in all honesty, the first year after the cheating scandal with fans in attendance hasn't been that bad for the Astros. They're one of the quieter teams in the league and are arguably benefiting from the quiet. I completely agree with this one. If the Astros are going to compete, I don't know if they're as good as the A's or the Yankees or um, a team like or the White Sox or a team like that. But if they are going to compete, they got to keep that low profile. If they let fans get inside, if they let the fans start to get into their head, they're done.
No doubt about it. The the Astros are they lost a few key players. They lost Springer in the offseason, going over to Toronto, but they
Frankfurt's had a good year.
right. They still have the pieces in place there to win some games, and they're doing that quietly, like this thing says.
Mm-hmm.
And it's I mean, good for Dusty Baker. I love Dusty Baker as a manager. I know you do too.
Mm-hmm.
But the Astros are interesting because it's just I mean, no one likes the Astros after what happened except for Astros fans. And even them, some of them are kind of I don't like them either after that. But um, the they're don't have a whole lot of media coverage because they don't have a lot of wow players outside of Verlander, outside of Greinke, um, and outside of
Jordan.
Jose.
Honestly, Jordan's been their most exciting player all year.
No doubt about it. And they're and
Air
outside, yeah,
Jordan, one of the best nicknames in baseball.
exactly. But yeah, they're quietly winning games, and that's what
Mhm.
I mean. If I'm a manager, I don't want all the publicity on me. I mean, as much as I love the Dodgers, they're the most recognized symbol in
Yep.
baseball after the New York Yankees.
Yep.
So and that comes with being in a big market like LA. They have a lot of eyes on them, and especially being the defending world champions. But the Astros, if I'm Dusty Baker, I love the situation I'm in right now.
Mhm.
You're winning games. You're not getting a whole lot talked about with you, and that's fine. Quietly do your job. Quietly win those games, and those games will matter come October.
Agreed. Let's get to the Mariners. Get out of Kelnick's way. The Mariners are the future of the AL West, and Jared Kelnick's right smack in the middle of the reasons why. Let the kid rake. Good things will follow. I don't think the Mariners compete this year, but I think they compete starting next year. Jared Kelnick's an absolute stud. I completely agree with this one.
No doubt about it. Kelnick, I mean, the Mariners started out hot. They had the best record in baseball for like 2 weeks, the first 2 or 3 weeks of the season. But they've fallen back to earth a little bit, and I think they've realized that. So they call up Kelnick, and he's the two teams in the MLB who have the best farm systems right now are the Mariners and the Tampa Bay Rays. So and Kelnick's a part of that. And we talked about Wander Franco earlier. Um, Kelnick's just in the same position as Franco with the Mariners. He's been called up, and he's I mean he was 3 for 4 with a home run the other night. You texted me he's on your fantasy team, and you bend over backwards for Jared Kelnick after you beat me this week in fantasy baseball. So Kelnick is obviously very talented, and he's going to help the Mariners a lot. Like you said, I don't think they're a contender right now, but 2 or 3 years down the road, they'll be in that conversation for sure.
No doubt about it. And the last team we're going to do here in hour number one, the Texas Rangers. The Rangers start making some deals. This season's gone about as well as it could have for the Texas Rangers with how well their offense has played, and they're still sitting in fourth place and quite a few games back in the division. So if things turn, they need to be ready to profit by building for the future. Because as fun as some of that offense is, how sustainable is this? I completely agree with this. We saw this a couple years ago with the Giants. Don't overreact to a solid month. Um, the Texas Rangers know what they are right now, and they're a team that's going through a transition period of getting new talent and getting younger players. Don't, because you're not as bad as you thought you'd be, don't burn your future to be semi decent for 1 year. Continue with the plan, continue to get younger players, continue to get max value for some of your veterans. And in a couple of years, like they said, with how good this offense has been this year, in a couple of years, the Rangers could be competing with the Mariners in the AL, for the AL West. I mean, those two teams definitely have a lot of really fun pieces for the future.
No doubt about it. The Rangers are interesting. I mean, they haven't really been competitive in 10 years. They went to World Series and they went to the World Series in 2011 with Ron Washington at the helm there. They weren't good with Jeff Bannister as their manager, but they've had some streak. They're another team that's very streaky. They go on 5, 6, and 7 game win streaks, and then they lose to 4 or 5.
Mm-hmm.
And that results to them being around. They hover around 500, and that's what they've done the last 2 years with Chris Woodward as the manager there. But the talent's definitely there, and you can always add to it, and that's what this is saying. Make some deals, bring some players in, add to your pitching staff, add a couple bats, and who knows? You may trend upwards here in the division as we get further into the summer here with the Texas Rangers.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think the Mariners are the sexiest team in the future of the AL West, but I don't think the Rangers have a bad future by any means. So I think that it's interesting that for years it's been the A's and the Astros competing for the AL West, and now as soon as a year or two from now it could be the Rangers and Mariners, which is a little crazy to think about because we haven't had the Rangers and Mariners competing for the playoffs in 15, 20 years. So um, it's just exciting. I love it. I mean, as long as the Reds are continuously good, I love change in baseball. So, I mean, I don't care if, the freaking Mets want to win the division. I don't care if the Baltimore Orioles want to be good 1 year. I don't care if I liked the story with the Minnesota Twins. So it's just fun for me to mix things up. When the Marlins made the playoffs last year, I was probably happier than some Marlins fans. So. All right, we're going to step away. That's the end of hour number 1. When we come back, we're going to continue with this, talk about the NL teams, what they can do to fix their season. What do the Reds have to do? I think I have an idea. What do the Dodgers have to do? I think I have an idea for that as well. But we'll get into that in hour number 2. Also, Albert Pujols signs with a team in the National League, but it's not the one maybe you're thinking of. We'll talk about that. And also, the NBA playoff matchups are set in stone. Who wins each one? We give our picks in hour number 2. Make sure you keep it locked. Keep it real. Continues with hour number 2 coming up next. Hour number 2 of Keep It Real with Testa and Neal. I'm Shea Neal, alongside with me, Parker Testa. Hi, how are all of you? Appreciate you hanging out with us from 2 different states on this Monday. It's been, honestly, with all the differences we've had to do, Parker, considering we haven't had anything go horribly wrong yet, fingers crossed, I think this has gone about as well as it could have. I even had to change studios, but we're good to go.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we've the difficulties. I mean, I think the past year has really forced us to look for alternative ways to do our jobs, and this is one of them right here. This is one of the perks of
Yeah.
having that happen, having the pandemic happen to us. We figured out how to do our jobs from remotely and from different states at that. So um, we're doing the best we can to given the circumstances.
Yep. All right. We're going to try and fly through the National League side of things a little bit faster so we can get to the Albert Pujols news as well as the NBA playoff matchups that are coming out. Because you got to get out of here. Maybe we might have to end the show a little early today because Parker's actually going to get his vaccine. So we'll start off here with the Atlanta Braves. The Braves is stay the course. It sure feels like everything that isn't Ronald Acuna Jr. and Huascar. I think it's Huascar. Is it Huascar? Huascar? I don't know.
Uh,
I think Hoskar.
I think it's Oscar.
Okay.
I don't know.
I think he's been one of their young starters. Everything that isn't Acuna and has been either slightly or extremely disappointing for the Braves so far, and yet they're right in the middle of everything in the NL East. There's a reason this team has won multiple titles in a row in that division. They think they are very well positioned moving forward. I agree. I think the Braves. I think the Mets are this year's Mets team is probably the greatest challenger they've had since that World Series Nationals team. But I think the Braves are still the most talented team in this division, and I don't think they need to panic yet.
No doubt about it. The Braves are, we all know, one of the talented teams in the NL. They've been in the playoffs every year. Seems like they've made at least a division series, if not a conference series, every single year. And so this is exactly correct. Stay the course. Do what you've always done, and it's going to result in really that playoff spot. Because if you continue to do what you're doing, and you don't shy away from what you are best at, the results will come, and that's what's going to happen with the Braves. As long as they just continue to stay the course, like this thing says. Brian Snitker is one of the best managers in baseball.
Mm-hmm.
He knows what he's doing. So the talent's there, and if they just keep on their same path that they've been on, and both in recent years and this season, good things will come for the Atlanta Braves.
I agree. I think that if I still had to pick a team to win the division here in May, I'd pick the Braves. I think that the Mets are very talented, but I think the Braves have played together longer, and I think the Braves have more depth. I think the Mets rely a lot on their stars, and that's not always sustainable in Major League Baseball. Just ask the Reds, who have been asking Jesse Winker to carry them for a month. The Marlins beg the baseball gods for some good fortune. The Marlins, a team that got to the NLDS last year, have the best run differential in the division, yet sit tied for third place. There are some things being done by the Marlins organization, both now and moving forward, that are very intelligent. It would sure be nice for them to catch a break or two. I don't think the Marlins are the most talented team in the division, but I think a lot of the times they end up playing the best in the division the last year and a half or so. So I think this Marlins team, I don't know how they do it with guys like Jesus Aguilar and Adam Duvall and John Birdie, but they're right in the thick of this, and they play solid fundamental baseball. And I mean, I expect nothing less from a Don Mattingly-led team. I don't know if they win the division. I don't know if they make the playoffs, but I do think they'll be right in the thick of things throughout the course of the year.
No doubt about it. The Marlins surprised a lot of people last year, making the playoffs and making the NLDS, and myself included. I mean, the Marlins have been terrible for what seems like forever. So and it's good to see them have some success. And like, I mean, I know I've said this on previous shows, but a Don Mattingly led team always has a shot. So the Marlins are in a good place. They're doing as much as they can with what they have, which isn't a lot. but they're doing as much as they can with what they have. Like you said, best run differential in their division, and they're in third place. But if they can continue to score runs like they have this season, the wins will come, and the playoff push is going to be another tough one like it was last year. But I think the Marlins can do it.
Yeah, I agree. The Mets take care of Jacob deGrom. This one's pretty self-explanatory. It'd be nice for star shortstop Francisco Lindor to get going at the plate, but let's be real. The success and or failure of the Mets season, both now and in October, rides on the right arm of Jacob deGrom, and nothing is changing that anytime soon. Take care of Jacob deGrom. I 100% agree.
So do I. I mean, this is duh. I mean, he's the best pitcher in baseball. He's been the best pitcher in baseball for what seems like forever. I mean, I know we talked about him earlier. He doesn't get a whole lot of run support because his offense is not very good. And I know you said this last week. It seems like the Mets win on days when Jacob deGrom is not pitching and lose, and decide not to score when deGrom's pitching. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. But yeah, deGrom is one of the best talents in baseball, the best pitcher in baseball. We both had him in our top 10, or both had him as number one when we did that a few weeks ago, or last week sometime. Seems like last Monday was forever ago.
I know,
But
right?
the Mets obviously have to know that Jacob deGrom is their best player and the best pitcher in baseball. Luis Rojas has had his work cut out for him, and I know we talked about him last week as one of the managers we could see getting fired mid-season if this takes a nosedive in New York. But the one consistent talent that the Mets have right now is deGrom.
Yep. And if there's one thing that New Yorkers are known for, it's being impatient. So for Rojas's sake, I hope they don't take a nosedive, because I don't think it lasts very long for him if they do. Nationals, this one's funny. Find some better veterans and fast. Every veteran lineup addition the Nats have made, from Schwarber to Starlin Castro to Josh Bell, has been a total flop. How much time is left until they have to do something drastic? And we talked about this on Friday. I don't know if it happens, but is that something drastic, trading Max Scherzer?
I don't think they go that far. And I know we talked about this last week. I don't think they go that far, but the veterans that they have brought in, Schwarber's not good. Starlin Castro's on the tail end of his career. Josh Bell, maybe this is a sign that Josh Bell isn't as good as we thought. Maybe just
You forget on the Pirates.
maybe in Pittsburgh was just a sign that he's good for Pittsburgh, just to show you how bad Pittsburgh is.
It's usually that they suck in Pittsburgh and then they get traded and do well. Just ask Tyler Glasnow or Austin Meadows. But maybe Josh Bell is the opposite, where he was good in Pittsburgh and then they trade him and then he sucks.
We just realized that Josh Bell wasn't as good as everybody thought just because he was on the Pirates. But yeah, I mean, the Nationals, they won the World Series 2 years ago. They still have a fantastic manager in Davey Martinez. Their pitching staff is still excellent with Strasburg and Scherzer, but their offense just can't do anything. It's another one of those teams that has so many talented pitchers, but they can't hit the ball. Right. So it's like the Cleveland Indians, But the Nationals, they need to find a bat. There's one earlier that said just pick up any bat that was near you. The Nationals are in the same boat. They just need to pick up their offense, and I think the wins will come.
The Nationals in Cleveland need to form together as one baseball team, and maybe they'll be good. I think that I agree with you. I think that the Nationals just need to go in a different direction. A lot of what they have right now just isn't working. The Phillies, find a center fielder. The fact that Odubel Herrera is still playing for this team is a sign of how desperate they are at center field. Finding a good one or even a decent one would solve a lot of issues. Phillies center fielders this year, I kid you not, are hitting 176 with a 259 on base percentage and a 296 slugging. That is horrifying. That is worse than anything. I thought the Reds offense sucked, but that's really bad. So yeah.
Like the Chicago Cubs early in the year.
Phillies trade for Trout. There you go. Problem solved.
Trout goes to Trout goes to
Trout
Philadelphia.
grew up in Philly. I mean, he'd probably take that deal.
Heck yeah. Play with Bryce Harper, Mike Trout. Not sure who the left fielder is there in
Who do the
Philadelphia.
Angels get in return? I don't know. Maybe like Zach Wheeler and Odubel Herrera and a
Maybe
couple
Reese Hoskins.
prospects. Yeah, there you go.
But yeah,
Rowan McCutcheon.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Forget about Jared Walsh. We'll put Reese Hoskins at first.
Yeah,
But
there you go.
yeah, the Phillies need to. I mean, center fielder is another one of those positions in baseball that, yeah, I mean, you need to have a good one. I mean, a ball hit into the gap, and you need to have a guy with a good arm out there that can get the ball in fast. And I mean, Odubel Herrera has been their center fielder for, I mean, 4 or 5 years now. He's not good. So the Phillies need to solve this. And it's just like the previous one. They need to find a center fielder, and they need to find it fast.
Yeah, I agree. Let's get to the NL Central, the division that keeps me up at night. The Brewers get Christian Yelich healthy. The Brewers have been a respectable team without their MVP, but this team's offense is built around him. He needs to get back and soon. This one's pretty easy. The Brewers are a fringe wild card team without Yelich. If they add Yelich, they go right up to the Cardinals and Reds for most talented team in the division, especially with Woodruff and Burns, who have had unbelievable years. You've been enjoying the successes of Woodruff in fantasy. I've been enjoying the successes of Burns, so we're both benefiting nicely from the Brewers' rotation. But Yelich needs to be healthy. If Yelich is healthy and playing at the level that we know that he can play at, I mean, this Brewers team could very well win the Central.
Yeah, no doubt about it. The Brewers, one of my favorite teams in the Central.
Yeah.
Sorry, one of my favorite teams in the Central.
They're my
Um,
favorite team in the Central that isn't the Reds too, so I feel you there.
yeah, yeah. So, they're just fascinating to watch. Hader is still one of the best closers in baseball,
Agreed.
and they have arguably one of the best starting rotations in baseball with Woodruff, with Corbin Burns. So
Freddie Peralta's been really good this year as well.
exactly. So Craig Counsell's done a fantastic job there in Milwaukee, even with the absence of Christian Yelich. So, yeah, I mean, if you get him back, there's no reason why you shouldn't go on a hot streak and win some games.
Agreed. Excuse me. Agreed. See, I'm getting exposed now because we're doing this video feed in the morning and I'm tired. But the Cardinals. This is a team that fuels my hatred fire. This is a team that I wish nothing but bad things to. Give Tyler O'Neill about one more month of rope. I totally disagree. I think they should give Tyler O'Neill about 8 more years of rope because he's about a 180 hitter, and I appreciate the fact that they play him every day. But no, I agree with this in reality. Harrison Bader's back. The Cardinals are close to settling in on their lineup, except for Tyler O'Neill, who has the talent to succeed but has a tendency to vanish for weeks at a time. He should have about 1 month to figure out some sort of consistency, or the Cardinals will need to address this at the deadline. I agree.
Yeah, I do too. The Cardinals, I know they're very another team that's very streaky. I know they made news last night when Yadi Molina threw somebody out at second base, and and everyone on Twitter
He was
saying,
on mic'd up and he called it, and he's like, "Yeah, he's out."
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And I hope, and I know everyone on Twitter saying, um, you know, has anybody learned not to run on Yadi Molina? I know he's like 67 years old, but he can still gun people out at second base.
Hey, Billy
So
Hamilton stole 5 bases on him in one game one time.
yeah, and
Yachty
I
looked
think
like a
that
chump.
yeah, I think that's still fueling Yadi Molina. I think that's
Yeah,
why
he
he still
probably
is.
is.
I think that's still why he's as good as he is, even at 38, 39 years old, whatever he
What
is
I'm
now.
wondering is how the hell did Billy Hamilton get on base 3 times in a game? That's
Yeah,
not something he did.
yeah.
But yeah, I think the Cardinals, I mean, this one's pretty easy. The Cubs, find any sort of starter who can throw above 95 miles an hour. Considering how many players have underperformed, the Cubs are fortunate to be sitting in 4th place and only 3 games out of first. But the rotation is in danger of a full-on collapse without any reliable arms who can miss bats with velocity. I personally, as a former pitcher, I am a fan of pitchers that get outs. I don't care how hard you throw as long as you get outs, but I agree. I mean, everyone the Cardinals has throws 88, and that can't be a thing. with Mills, Davies, and Hendricks. They have 3 guys that's fastballs are under 90 miles an hour, and that's not something you can do in 2021. You have to have a guy that throws Ched.
Exactly. The Cubs, I mean, there's so many guys that are not playing well. I know we both agree with this statement. Javi Baez is miles and miles overrated.
Maybe the most overrated player in the league. But I will admit that I thought Chris Bryant was kind of falling back to earth over the last over the last year and a half or so. But Chris Bryant's been really good this year. He's been their bright spot.
Sure has. And the Cubs are interesting. They started out terribly. I know a lot of Cubs fans. I know they are not happy. And if there's a fan base other than outside of New York that you don't want to piss off, it's the Chicago Cubs fan base. So they're kind of coming back to fruition a little bit. They've kind of picked up the Cubs have kind of picked up the pace here in recent weeks a little bit, but their pitching has struggled. And in today's game, if you can't throw a ball above 95 as a starting pitcher, you're not going to be any good.
You better be throwing no hitters like Wade Miley.
Exactly. So the Cubs need to find they're another team that's rotation is kind of shaky. So if they can find a guy who consistently throw above 95 and can add a few nasty off speed pitches with that, I think they see that guy as their 2 or 3 starter.
Yeah. Pirates, get Ke'Bryan Hayes back. This one's really self-explanatory. The present and future of the Pittsburgh Pirates revolves around Ke'Bryan Hayes, who has hit just a hair over 360 in his major league career so far. They may need him more emotionally than they do on the field, and they need him on the field a lot.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean,
this is a fun game we can play later on in the week, but I saw a game on Twitter, like, pick one player from each of your division rivals that you would want on your team. For the Pirates, It's easy, Ke'Bryan Hayes.
Exactly. No doubt about it. It's no secret that the Pirates suck. And Ke'Bryan Hayes is their one shining bright spot. And that's it, really, to be honest.
Until they trade him for prospects.
Exactly. It's sad when Chad Kuhl is your best pitcher and he has like a 4 ERA right now. So
it's sad when Chad Kuhl is your best starter. You could have just ended it there. You didn't even have to throw in his ERA.
It's so damn true. I mean, you're absolutely correct. But
I'd rather have Wade Miley than Chad Kuhl.
And that's wow. And that's a statement right there. And that's saying something. But the Reds, I like this one. And I'll let you go on this.
I 100% agree with it, by the way.
Find the elusive balance.
I 100% agree with this one. The Reds are the best team in the league at pretending that they're the best team in the league for a few weeks and then pretending that they're the worst team in the league for another couple weeks. They never figure out what they actually are, and they end up being average because for 2 months they're the best team in baseball and for 2 months they're the worst team in baseball, and then they're just kind of meh in between. So, Reds, pick a side. Are you going to be good or are you going to be bad? For my mental health, I need you to make a decision. Like yesterday, they got their butts kicked yesterday for 7 innings, and then they decided to have a 6-run rally in the 8th inning and win. And I'm like, well, are we going to start winning games again? Or I think we're going to learn a lot about the Reds this week. They go back home where they've won a lot this year, and they play a very good San Francisco Giants team. If they take 3 out of 4 against this Giants team, they're right back up there with the Cardinals at the top of the division, and it could be the momentum they need to have a really successful summer.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And that's something that a colleague of yours and another Dayton radio host, Justin Kenner, has ragged on the Reds for a while. And he's just yelling about how Suarez needs to hit the ball and how the pitchers need to get their act together. And
if only it was that easy. Just tell Luis Castillo not to give up home runs and tell Eugenio Suarez to hit the ball.
Yeah. So another thing that he said on his show that I just absolutely loved, it seems Suarez does the opposite of what Kenner says. So I know one day, or the series against the Dodgers a couple weeks back, I was listening to Justin's show, and he said, Suarez, do not hit the ball. You're going to go 0 for 5. You're going to be terrible. And I think he came out and bombed, which made me laugh hysterically. But the Reds need to find
You'll quickly learn. It doesn't matter the sport. Usually, whenever Justin has a take, it's usually the opposite that happens.
But yeah, I completely agree with the statement that the Reds need to find um, that perfect middle. They don't have, like you said, they don't have. They win.
They
They
beat the
act like
Dodgers on the road, and then they lose to the Diamondbacks at home.
exactly. They there's no perfect middle with the Reds. They're either really good for 10 games or really bad for 10 games.
Yep.
So they need to find that middle ground. And I think that if they find that middle ground, it'll result in more wins than losses.
I agree. I think the talent's on the team. I think there's talent on the roster to be a winning baseball team. Another thing that's always bugged the Reds is that they never have everything clicking at the same time, where their starting rotation has a good game, but their offense can't score, or their offense scores 7 or 8 runs, but their bullpen gives up 5 runs. And so if the Reds can have a 15, 20 game stretch where everything's semi clicking at a good rate and you can rattle off, 13, 14 wins in a 20 game stretch, I mean, they're going to be sitting really pretty because I think they're better. They're definitely better than the Cubs. Everyone's better than the Pirates. They're definitely better than the Cubs. I think they're better than the Brewers, and I think they're neck and neck with the Cardinals. I think they're more talented than the Cardinals, but I think the Cardinals are obviously have more experience being a good baseball team. So I really think if the Reds get their act together, it could be St. Louis and Cincinnati battling it out until September.
No doubt about it. The Cardinals are the best team talent wise in this division right now.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, I think you would agree with that
They're
statement.
playing the best baseball, no doubt about it.
Exactly. And so the Reds certainly have the talent to come up the rear there as well as Milwaukee. So it's the NL Central is one I love watching because it's always close. It always comes down to the last few games in September. So it's always an interesting division for me to watch. Moving on here to the NL West, the division that has pained me all year long. We're really for the last month, but the D-backs, a speedy recovery for Carson Kelly. Carson Kelly's been one of the few bright spots in Arizona right now for Torey Lovillo, who one of the guys I know we talked about who could be on the hot seat coming up here at the end of the year if the D-backs don't turn it around. But the D-backs are another streaky team. They go in and they beat the Reds for three. I mean, I think it was did they take 3 out of 4?
It was. I think they won 4 out of 6. I think they won 2 out of 3 in both Phoenix and Cincinnati.
Okay. So the D-backs are, I mean, another team that's very streaky. Their pitching is not great outside of Madison Bumgarner, who's surprised everybody. But yeah, the D-backs need to get Kelly back. He's been one of the few bright spots for the offensive
Oh yeah.
unit for the D-backs.
Let's get to your Dodgers now. This one, I mean, it's. I think it's semi-true. Let gravity take effect. Everyone's freaking out about the slow start, but people thought this was a potential record-breaking team for a reason. It's all going to be fine. Trevor Bauer's been great. I think they still have a really top-tier pitching rotation. The bullpen's still pretty solid. They just have to, get healthy. I mean, they've had Bellinger hurt. They've had they had Dustin Mays out for the year now. They have Edwin Rios out for the year. Corey Seager just broke his hand.
Yeah.
So if the Dodgers can be healthy, I think they are the best team in baseball. But the problem is they haven't been able to be healthy since the first week of the season when they were the best team in baseball.
Right. And so, yeah, I mean, I know I went off on a tangent for about 3 minutes last week, and it was, I mean, I know you sat there across the studio from me laughing at me, but and to an extent, everything I said was true, but like
Yeah.
we talked about earlier, I'm guilty of it. I exaggerate. This team is still very talented. They still have tremendous pitchers. Their offensive talent is definitely there. They just seem to take nights off.
Yeah.
And when you're a team that has that most talent, as much talent as they do, coming off a World Series, you don't take nights off. I
No.
mean, it's. I mean, I know we've talked about it with Wright State before, and the men's basketball team. They take nights off because they know they're good, and you can't do that. The pitching has definitely been very, very, very strong, especially from Bauer. Kershaw has his good days and his bad days, but that's what he's done for the last 5 years. Bueller is we all know the talent that Walker Bueller has. Their bullpen has been shaky. and that's been a common thread for the Dodgers for what seems like a long time. But they're just a broken team. They got holes held together with duct tape. They've got Sheldon Noisy playing at shortstop to replace Corey Seager on a night. Chris
Yeah.
Taylor's playing the outfield to give Betts a night off. You got Sheldon freaking Noisy at shortstop. So um, yeah, they're plugging holes with duct tape. They're holding everything together with rubber bands, but they win 2 out of 5 and right now but
Yeah.
like this I agree with this. They'll come back to fruition
Oh,
eventually.
I agree. Mhm.
Gravity will hit the Giants. Gravity will hit it'll hit the oh man, they'll hit the Padres. I think gravity will hit the Padres. I think the Padres are really good. We'll get the Padres in a second, but I think they'll come back to earth eventually.
I agree. Giants find another 30 something for the rotation. All the 30-year-olds, both on the mound and in the field, are carrying the San Francisco Giants. It's just the 20-year-olds who are struggling. So find even more old guys. They're everywhere. Do they maybe, hey, if the Nationals are going to unload Max Scherzer, maybe the Giants are a destination for him?
Yeah, no doubt about it. I love the last sentence there. Find more old guys. They're everywhere,
It's
and
true.
it's very true. You can go out and find, a solid pitcher
Yeah.
who's
I hate
maybe older, but he still can pitch.
right, and I hate to um, consider this hypothetical because I'd like the Reds to be good, but if the wheels fall off the Reds and they suck, they could be unloading Sonny Gray.
Yeah, that's a possibility. And I think San Francisco would be a very intriguing spot for Gray, and Gray would be a very intriguing for the Giants. So um, he'd bring a veteran mentality to that starting rotation, and I think that's what the Giants need right now. As much as it pains me to say it, they're very good in this division right now. They're at the top, but and the Giants are interesting because no one expected them to be good.
Mm.
Um, the Dodgers have the best run differential in the division and are third. So it's the Giants, and there's no reason why. I don't know why they're good. I don't know how they're good, but they're good. So they're it's uh they're a team that I think will fall back to earth eventually. But if they can find a solid pitcher
Mm-hmm.
who brings a veteran mentality to the rotation, I think they'll continue to have the success that they've had.
I agree. We are we're on YouTube today. We're kind of live if you haven't figured that out by now. How it worked is we recorded this about 2 hours before the show started, and then we just dropped the video when the show started. So it's the most live we're going to be able to be for a while. Parker's going to make a couple trips back to Ohio over the course of the summer, but this is going to be kind of the reality of this show, at least for the near future. But I think, like I said, considering all the stuff that's wrong with technology and especially Mondays, I think so far it's been pretty smooth sailing. Uh, the Padres, the Padres are a contender because they got this headline: sniff around the starting pitching market. Every team that's a contender, you can never have too much pitching depth. The top three is top tier with Darvish, Snell, and Lamet. And then they also, Clevenger won't pitch this year, but they have Clevenger coming back next year. Paddock's been a little underwhelming. I'm not gonna lie. I expected more from Chris Paddock, but they are putting a lot of innings on their bullpen in the first month and a half of the season. So it would be very beneficial for the Padres. Musgrove as well. I forgot Musgrove, but it would be very beneficial for the Padres to get another starter because every innings counts because you need that bullpen to be not out of gas when you get to August and September.
No doubt about it. Bullpen depth is crucial in making a deep playoff run. We saw it the first few years or the before the World Series. Dodgers had a terrible bullpen, and it cost them. They were terrible, but we all know how important pitching is, especially pitching depth in the bullpen. So the Padres are a very good offensive team. Um, I know I'm probably going to surprise a lot of people here, but I don't think Fernando Tatis Jr. I think he's a little bit overrated. He's not a great offensive player, and so And he's not as bad as Javi Baez, but he's not as exciting, or he's not as productive offensively as some of the best shortstops in baseball. He just makes the occasional makes the occasional sexy play at shortstop like Javi Baez does. That's why the Cubs keep him around. But yeah, the Padres need to
Javi a contract. It's a big mistake, but
exactly. The Padres need to address the pitching depth. I mean, like you said, you can never have enough. So they need that depth.
Yeah, I totally agree. Okay. So the last but not least, the Colorado Rockies. We've spent a lot of time on this topic, but I think it's been pretty fun. We're actually going to probably end up pushing back the best sports cities until tomorrow because we're just going to hit on the NBA playoffs to end today's show. So that's the beauty of this. Like I said, you come in with a plan and it doesn't always work, but it's cool with me. Less work for tomorrow.
Exactly.
But last but not least, the Colorado Rockies trade Trevor Story. It's gonna happen. You might as well just get it over with. I agree. I think they are gonna trade him. It's just a matter of where he's going. He could go to Milwaukee. He could go to Oakland. He could go to New York. Yankees, obviously not the Mets. The Mets have Lindor. But he could go to Cincinnati in my dreams. I wake up and I wake up in the cold sweats at like 3 a.m. thinking about Trevor Story manning down shortstop for the Reds. But no, I think like I said, I think a more realistic option for the Reds if they do chase a shortstop is Adames. But Story could be going really a number of places, but I do think the Rockies are going to trade him inevitably. So I think this is a move that's better. It's best for both parties. Story deserves to play for a contender. And kind of reset, and the Rockies need to just cut weight, get the prospects back, and start the rebuild.
No doubt about it. The Rockies are. I mean, it's not a secret that they're one of the worst teams in baseball.
Somehow they're good at home, but they're 2-14 on the road.
Exactly. So, and everyone knows that you need to win on the road if you're going to make the playoffs. And Rockies can't. 2 games out of 16 on the road is not good. So. They got rid of Arenado before the year, and just like this says, it's only a matter of time. It's not a matter of time. It's a matter of where, and they need to. They just need to rip that Band-Aid off, if you will.
I agree. And so let's get before we hop into NBA playoffs. We're actually not going to take a break here in hour number 2. We're just going to go straight until you got to go. But Albert Poohl signs with the Dodgers. How about that?
Yeah. Unbelievable. I mean, I was sitting yesterday. Literally just working. I mean, Twitter blew up. Jeff passing bomb. Albert Pujols to the Dodgers. He's going to be signed for $400 and something thousand to play for the rest of the year as a bench player in LA. So I think it's a possibility. I know you said it. It's a possibility they move Muncy to second and have Albert Pujols play first. But personally, I think they're going to keep Muncy at first and have Pujols as a bench player. He'll play on days off when Muncy needs days off, and he'll be the DH when they go to AL ballparks. So I think that's the role that fits best for Albert Pujols is the occasional playing time at home or in NL ballparks, or when they go to AL ballparks, he'll be the DH. So I think that's the best spot the best role for Albert Pujols. It surprised the hell out of me that he went literally across town. But
and what's funny is he took a bench role across town when he said he wouldn't come off the bench for the Angels.
I think it's, you know what I think it is? I think he has a feeling that the Dodgers are going to win another ring, and I think he wants to get another ring. I mean, he won one when he was in St. Louis, but I mean,
he won 2 when he was in St. Louis, didn't he? Did he?
Is it 2?
Is it 06 that the Cardinals won?
Oh, that's right. That's right. So they won 06 and they won in 11.
Yep.
But yeah. So he is really. I think all sports players and really everyone that is a sports fan is greedy.
Mm-hmm.
And so it doesn't surprise me that Pujols. I mean, he chasing rings. I mean, we've seen it with Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We saw how many guys went to Tampa Bay when Tom Brady signed there because they knew he was going to somehow win the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm. Kevin Durant going to the Warriors.
Right.
All athletes chase rings.
Exactly.
Yep. Everyone follows LeBron across the NBA because they know it's how they're going to get a ring. All right. Well, to end the show today, let's get into the NBA playoffs. We know every single matchup except for the 1 and 2 seeds because they have to wait to see who wins the play-in tournament. We'll start with the play-in tournament. Let's start with the Western Conference, the Grizzlies and the Spurs. This one interests me. I think DeRozan's a very good player, but I just like the upside of the Grizzlies a little more with Valanciunas, with John Morant, Dylan Brooks, Jaren Jackson Jr. I like the Grizzlies to win this one over the Spurs.
I do too. The Spurs, they've struggled a bit this season, no doubt about it. But the Grizzlies have talent. They have John Morant, just to name one of their players, and they're the 9 seed, and I think the higher seed wins this one.
Mm-hmm.
The Grizzlies have the better record by 5 games, and I think that more of that experience and that better record will help propel the Grizzlies to win that spot and move to the next round in the new play-in tournament.
Yeah, I agree.
Um,
We're
yeah,
both Pacers fans. Pacers take on the Charlotte Hornets in the play-in round. I hate to do this as a Pacers fan, but I think the Hornets win it. Honestly, I do. LaMelo Ball has been outstanding this year. He's finally healthy. They have Miles Bridges. They have very talented PJ Washington. I just think the Hornets are a better basketball team right now. Right now with the Pacers, it's your ride or die with LeVert and Sabonis, and that's about it.
yeah, no doubt about it. Drama has surrounded the Pacers all year long. They suck. They're not good. It's no secret. They don't deserve to be in the playoffs, in my opinion. But somehow they're here. They're at a 34-38 record. I don't know how they made it this far, but they did.
I don't know how they won 34 games. It felt like they were 24 and 48.
Exactly. But nonetheless, they're here and they're the higher seed somehow. But I agree with
When they
you.
get to host it, isn't it the higher seeds the home team?
I believe that's how it works.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think so.
So I think I agree with you. I think the Hornets win it. LaMelo Ball's been fantastic. And the Charlotte Hornets have surprised everybody. Even though the record doesn't show it, they're a great team. I think the Hornets win this one.
I agree. Celtics and Wizards. I'm a big Brad Stevens fan. I wish he came back to coach at IU, but Jalen Brown's out now. I know you kind of made a face there. I'm totally content and happy with the Mike Woodson hire. I'm referring back to when they were looking for a new coach.
Right.
But
Yeah.
the Celtics are missing Jalen Brown for the rest of the year. They just have played uninspired basketball the last month or so. And I don't know if Jason Tatum can carry them to a win in this game. I think Beal is playing really. I mean, if Beal is healthy, he's been dealing with a hamstring issue the last couple games. If Beal is healthy, the way Russell Westbrook's playing right now, I like the Wizards to go into Boston and beat the Celtics.
I do too. And the Wizards they have talent. Beal's been fantastic,
Westbrook's
as Russell Westbrook.
Mm-hmm.
And so I mean he broke the double record, all-time triple double record last week. So the Wizards have the talent. Boston definitely also has been very successful with Brad Stevens at the helm. But this is an interesting one because the winner of the 7-8 game on both sides, the winner of that goes straight into the tournament or go straight into the playoffs as the 7th seed. And the loser plays the winner of the 9-10 games.
Yeah. So if it works out the way we think it will, the Wizards would play the Brooklyn Nets and the Celtics would play the Hornets for a trip to play the Sixers. I'd pick the Hornets to beat the Celtics too, honestly. But we'll get into that later on in the week. I don't want to play that much hypothetical right now. I just want to pick the matchups that we have. Lakers and Warriors. I saved this one for last for a reason. It's LeBron versus Curry. Steph Curry's played like an MVP this year. I don't know how the hell that Warriors team got to the playoffs, but LeBron and AD are finally back. The Lakers win this one.
No doubt about it. As great as Steph Curry has been this season, he's really the only shining bright spot in the Bay Area right now for the Warriors. So the Lakers they have LeBron. And like we said, the winner of this game will go directly in as the 7th seed, and the loser will play what we think will be the Memphis Grizzlies in for the 8th seed.
Yeah. So let's get into these first round matchups that we know right now. We've got about 4 minutes left in today's show. We know 4 of them right now. We'll start in the East, the Bucks and the Heat. This one's pretty intriguing. The Heat aren't playing as well as they did last year. I think the Bucks win. But I think it's a really good series, maybe one of the better ones of the first round.
Yeah, no doubt about it. The Heat have been, I mean, really good. They were
Mhm.
really good last year. They went to the finals in last year's
And they got Jimmy
playoffs.
Butler and Bam Adebayo. I mean, don't count those two out.
Exactly. But everyone knows how good Milwaukee is. Everyone knows how good Giannis Antetokounmpo is. And personally, I think if I'm picking this one, I'm going to take the Bucks. But I give the Heat. I think the Heat give them a run for their money.
That could set up a potential Bucks Nets matchup in round 2, and how fun would that be?
No doubt about it.
Knicks and Hawks, Trae Young, John Collins. I don't know how they got the 5 seed, but they did. Going up against maybe the hottest team in the league right now in the New York Knicks. I never thought I'd see the day where it's 2021, but I'm about to do it. I think the Knicks win in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. The Knicks have been surprised everybody. Julius Randle has been fantastic.
Julius Randle should be first team All NBA this year. Honestly,
I
he's
would
been
agree.
really good.
I would agree with that. I think he's he's going to win most improved player.
No doubt about it. That's a lot.
And he's going to be, I mean, I think the Knicks
He'll
won
be
the
at least
series.
second team All League. I think you can make a very good argument for first team All League.
No doubt about it. The Knicks have been fantastic, as well as the Hawks. We all know how good Trae Young is, and it's, I mean, it's no surprise, but I think the Knicks win this one.
Let's get to the West. Nuggets and Blazers. I hate picking against Damian Lillard in the playoffs because it's always Dame time. But I like Jokic. I like MPJ. I think the Nuggets are just a deeper team where the Blazers really are just relying on Lillard and McCollum, and we don't know how really healthy McCollum is. So I like the Nuggets. I think Damian Lillard could win them a game or two, but I think the Nuggets advance in the end.
Yeah, I think so too. The Nuggets have been fantastic. Jokic is very good, as well as Jamal Murray. So they have the talent there, and they're a great team. But I think as good as Portland is, I don't think Dame alone, as well as CJ McCollum, can. I don't think they can put up a fight against this good Nuggets team.
And our final matchup that we'll talk about today, of course, if you're thinking, why aren't they talking about the Jazz, Suns, Sixers, and Nets? It's because we don't know who they're playing yet. Later on in the week, we'll get into those 4, as well as breaking down some of these series in more detail when we know kind of when it's going to happen, what it's going to happen, stuff like that, who's playing, who's not playing, all that stuff. But Clippers and Mavericks, this might be my favorite one. Paul George, Kawhi Leonard going up against Luka and Porzingis. I'm going to make a hot take here. I got the Mavs in 7.
Wow. Okay. The Clippers are fantastic. Kawhi is there. Paul George is there. As good as Dallas is, I don't think they can overcome Kawhi and Paul George. I really don't. I think the just the experience factor alone, with Paul George and Kawhi Leonard in the playoffs. We all know when playoff basketball comes around, it's a different level of talent and a different level of play. So I think with how young, with how little playoff experience both Porzingis, if they get him back, and Luka have, they don't have a lot of playoff experience. So I think that experience factor comes in for the Clippers. I think they win this one.
I could very well see that either way. I think it's hard for me to pick against Kawhi, but I think I'm blinded by my fanhood of Luka Doncic at this point. That it's just I can't pick against him.
Yeah, those 4 or 5 games could go either way. Really, both
No
in
doubt
the
about
East
it.
and the West.
No doubt about it. All right. Well, we appreciate you hanging out with us here on YouTube today or on WWSU 106.9. However, you hung out with us, we appreciate you keeping it real. We will be back same time tomorrow, 1 to 3. Right, you can catch us on YouTube or WWSU 106.9 FM. Just search WWSU1069.org. We ended the show a little bit early today. Like I said, Parker's going to get his vaccine. Indiana had to wait a little longer than some of us in Ohio did, so he's getting that process started today. But like I said, back tomorrow with plenty more to talk about. We got the greatest sports cities in the country. It should be a really fun show tomorrow and throughout the rest of the week. So, Parker, thanks for joining me, and we'll talk to you tomorrow. Until then, keep it real with Testa and Neal.